Hello, my Micto brothers. I hope you're well. Always wanted to say that. Shout out to Neo Chotsky. Bring that back, Nico. I like that intro. Well, let's get down to it. This is the last segment I'm going to do on this, and this is my personal response to what JTO said in his last video. There's about 5 questions he asked that I want to touch on. The first 4 are relatively trivial, and it's just like housekeeping. I'm going to do that first. But the last one he talked about, which was about affirmative action, really piqued my interest, and I want to give that more time and more weight because that is an interesting topic and an interesting question that I want to kind of delve into. So we're going to take these 5 questions in reverse order of importance. I'm going to take the least important first, and I'm going to work my way up. So here we go. The first question is relatively minor. It's about my username, Black Gnostic, and why I use it. Why isn't it just Gnostic? Well, it doesn't have anything to do with my color. It has more to do with my strange brand of religion. It's based on a Gnostic Hermetic code that goes all the way back to Memphite theology, which is where I derive the basis of my belief. And the term black doesn't mean color, it means hidden. Anybody in the Hermetic Gnostic community knows that the color black means to hide or keep secret, and the color white means to be revealed. So my religion or my beliefs are based on the previously hidden or secret teachings of Masonry, Zen Buddhists, or even Gnostic Christians, if you want to put it that way. There's lots of those groups around, but that's where the call name comes from. The second is about the disclaimer I gave before I proceeded into my commentary in the video. It's not that I think I'm the arbiter or the spokesman for the black community, or saying that other people can't comment on the going on of race and what goes on in the black community. The disclaimer was to keep the yahoos down in the comment section. If I don't give a disclaimer, when you do a video on race, the comment section is going to blow up. And I'm glad I did, because the commenters were really relatively well behaved. The only 2 that I had that were kind of obsessive were actually black commenters. So what's seemingly self-righteous and self-aggrandizing was merely a disclaimer to kind of keep the comments in line. The third one is me not doing race on this channel. The reason for this channel is it to be a MGTOW channel and to help people and to contribute to the MGTOW community. Whatever little expertise or knowledge that I have that I can impart to other people to kind of help the discussion along and help build a community and be part of the discussion and part of the solution, hopefully. Introducing race or racial topics creates a quagmire. I don't like my channel and myself to actually get sucked into that discussion, because it is a mixed group, and I didn't think that a race or race-based discussions belong on this particular channel. There's other things that I do where race actually plays a part, and I hadn't anticipated on doing one. Damn you, JTO. I thought I was out and you pulled me back in. And the last little thing about housekeeping, why I did the video, is because of a comment that I put in John the Other's section about the football players, especially not putting their ass on the line for nothing. And black kids don't protest for nothing. They don't protest over made up stuff. Now, whether we think or we believe that it doesn't rise to the level of actually getting out there and marching is immaterial. What John the Other said in his video, that this was a false narrative. And all I wanted to do was prove that it wasn't a false narrative. And 2, the really important thing is that the football players who have millions of dollars on the line, I know there's 5 or 6 guys that are probably going to go first or second round in the NFL that are going to make millions and millions of dollars playing professional sports, aren't going to put their career on the line over something that didn't happen. That's all I was saying in the comment section. John the other disagreed with me. So instead of going back and forth in the comment section, which I hate, and I know he does too, I put it up in video form, especially about the infamous poop swastika, which I said that black kids wouldn't normally protest over something that minor. And in none of the footage that I could actually see, they actually even mentioned the poop swastika, which is something they didn't see. And that the YouTube commenters were saying that it didn't exist, which in my second video, I actually found out that it actually did. And there were actually reports on it, and anybody could have found it. If I did, anybody could have. So those are the two things that I wanted to prove. And I did get blowback, not because of what happened or the facts in the matter of the case, but they believe that these kids didn't have a right to protest, and they actually do. If an administrator's not doing his job and racism is not supposed to be on campus, at least overtly, and they're dissatisfied with his job, they have a right to protest. Now, I've seen video, I'm not sure if it was the University of Missouri, but I've seen video where there have been, the redneck element that has driven on campus where black students are walking, hurl racial slurs at them in front of campus police, and the campus police will usher the students off instead of doing what he's supposed to do and getting rid of the element off of campus. Students have a right, and they pay their money to have the bylaws and the rules of the campus actually followed. The big issue is the football players. None of this would have even been an issue if the football players didn't weigh in. Nobody gives a damn about a couple soft-ass millennials complaining about racism and a few kids marching until the football players getting ready to cost your university a few $1 million and basically could upset the whole NCAA region as far as football is concerned. If the SEC, the conference, gets a racist tag, it's going to be hard for them to recruit. That's an issue. That's why it's important. That's why the press took notice. But that being said, we're going to get into our last topic. The last topic, which is the most interesting question that John the other actually brought up right at the very end of his video, was about getting rid of affirmative action, which is not a new question. I've heard that question for about the last 40 years. And my take on it is not going to be whether it should or shouldn't exist. What I want to get into for the next few minutes that I actually have on this segment is, why does it exist in the first place? You know me, I got to do this Black Gnostic style. So we're going to start off with maybe a minute or so of context to actually set the tone for the rest of what I'm going to say about it. What I'm going to draw from is an old document that's 50 years old, The Negro Family, the Case for National Action. Most people know it by its casual name, which is the Moynihan Report of 1965. In this new period, the expectations of the Negro Americans will go beyond civil rights. In Americans, they will now expect that in the near future, equal opportunities for them as a group will produce roughly equal results as compared with other groups. This is not going to happen, nor will it happen for generations to come unless a new and special effort is made. There are two reasons. First, the racist virus in the American bloodstream still afflicts us. Negroes will encounter serious personal prejudice for at least another generation. Second, 3 centuries of sometimes unimaginable mistreatment have taken their toll on the Negro people. Harsh fact is that as a group at the present time, in terms of ability to win out in the competition of American life, they are not equal to most of those groups which they will be competing. Individually, Negro Americans reach the highest peaks of achievement, but collectively, in the spectrum of American ethnic and religious and regional groups, where some get plenty and some get none, where some send 80% of their children to college and others pull them out of school, at 8th grade, Negroes are among the weakest. And lastly, this would be a new departure for federal policy, and a difficult one. But it almost certainly offers the only possibility of resolving in our time what is, after all, the nation's oldest and most intransigent, and now its most dangerous social problem. What Gunnar Myrdal said in An American Dilemma remains true today. America is free to choose whether the Negro shall remain her liability or become her opportunity. Now, I hate to give 3 minutes to something that deserves probably its own series and maybe its own book. Is what Moynihan was trying to say is that if you want to solve the Negro problem, the Negro problem is trying to integrate lower caste people that have been previously not able to integrate after 3 centuries of mistreatment and America building this racial divide and caste system, is that if you want to push these people into the white collective and assimilate them just like the immigrants came from Europe, then you're going to have to give them some help. You're going to have to fix all the damage that America has done to them over 3 centuries. You're going to have to give them special protections and special privileges just so they can catch up. Because all of the hurdles and roadblocks placed in front of them will be too great to surmount by themselves without federal help. Trying to push black folks into a hostile white collective just so you can have a cohesive society and have a stable environment so you can rule the world is not going to happen unless you do something. And if you don't give them these protections, you're wasting your time and you're wasting your money. So either you spend the money and put some force behind it to solve this problem, or you're wasting your time. That's what Moynihan was saying. Affirmative action is not something that black people asked for. It was something that the policymakers and our managers of the country had to do to reach their goals. It was a necessary step that they had to take. It's the same thing with busing, and it's the same thing for other civil rights measures that they passed. It's the cost of doing business for what the managers and the policymakers actually want in this country. It's forced integration. And if you're going to have forced integration, you better do something to protect these people. Otherwise, it's going to go badly. You're throwing these black folks to the wolves. And while the half-assed job that they did implementing these policies helped black folks a little bit financially and a little bit politically, culturally and socially, it had a devastating effect on the black community and the black family. We have more people in jail. We have more out of wedlock births. The marriage rate of black people isn't even something that you can even discuss. You've set black men and women at each other's throats. The cost for black people culturally has been high. So the short answer to John the Other's question is that affirmative action exists along with the other civil rights is so that the black folks will believe and be socialized to believe that they're part of the white collective. So that will allow our managers and our policymakers to forge a cohesive society that will be stable and manageable. After all, that is the function of all policymakers and all government. Is to forge a stable, cohesive society. And lastly, I'm going to say that I don't believe there's any animosity between me and JTO. I think he's more like me than not. We look both like a good debate and a good fight. All I can say is, damn you, JTO, you pulled me back in.